On this episode of the Star Trek Universe podcast, we are talking about Star Trek Discovery 312, There is a Tide, right after these words from respected subsidiaries of the Emerald Chain.
Star Trek Universe podcast, the podcast where you get to listen in to the continuing Star Trek conversation that two lifelong friends have been having since they were 5 years old. My name is Matthew Carroll.
I am David C. Robertson.
And we're going to talk about this episode of Discovery today, but how are you, Dave? How's your life? How are things?
I'm okay. I broke my toenail.
Ooh, I thought you were going to say toe, but somehow toenail might even be more painful.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's not a happy time.
It's not a happy time. I really like the idea that you look back at the seasons of your life, and a lot of people look back at the seasons of their life and what was going on relationally, what was going on with my family, what was going on. You know, you looking back at the seasons of your life, and you're like, ooh, there was that dark season where I broke that toenail.
Well, the way it's broken, it's not gonna heal for years.
Oh yeah, I hate that. I'm with you. It's rough, but it's just, it's just a funny way to look at your life. if that were the way. But I hope it feels better. Can you get any kind of glue or something? Is it some sort of situation you could glue it together, maybe? Or
maybe. I don't know. I mean, it just happened. We'll see.
Do some YouTube research.
Yeah.
What do you do about a broken toenail?
What do you do about a broken toenail?
We both were going for different songs. About what do you do about a broken heart? Okay, let's talk about Star Trek.
What do you do with a broken nail?
Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so this episode is about the ship has been taken over by the Emerald Chain. Osira wants to visit with the Admiral to talk about a peace accord, which I gotta say was my favorite shit. That was the best. Yeah. Oh, that scene of I really wanted it to be there. I really wanted, and it was a real. It was a real moral dilemma, and I want to talk about it. What do you think? Sure, there's lots of laser fights in this episode, and the Sphere Data has robot hands. But what did the Admiral make the right call here, pushing Osira to be prosecuted?
I think so. I think the only way. I think it was important for him to go there with it, because if he didn't, I feel like it would be a major compromise morally.
Sure.
She has a really interesting offer, but she's known far and wide as this murderous piece of crap. So,
right.
Yeah. I mean, if the Federation sanctions her and allows her to be free, they're no better than she is. She has to pay for her crimes.
I'm with you that there's that argument to be made, but I don't think it's that cut and dry. I mean, you could make a case for you have to step down. Maybe there's a middle road where you can't be the leader of this anymore. You've been too bad. But she's also, you got to balance the bad and the good. This is the person who's done these horrible things, horrible atrocities. They need to be out, they don't need to be in control anymore. And as he said, he's would the liaison to the Federation, would they be, just a puppet? And then that's the one lie she tells. She's no, they'd be completely independent. And they're that's a lie. By the way, I like Eli. Eli's a great name for that. It's very Apple.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
It's not the I lie, I guess, but
she was no, just ask me again. It's a glitch.
She's I can beat it. I loved Osira in this episode, and
she was a lot of fun.
Her discussions with her scientist guy and his discussions about her. I feel like they're already, Stamets has already kind of convinced that scientist to flip, I think, which I felt like was kind of quick.
Everything with Stamets was quick. Jumping in on Adira being, an offspring of some sort to Stamets is a bit quick. And also, I don't necessarily buy that this guy is just now coming around to the notion or hearing that Osira is a piece of shit.
Yeah, I don't buy that either. I mean, maybe they could have made some case at the beginning. I guess it needed a throwaway line. It needed a lantern hung where it's like something to the effect of, I'm out of the lab for the first time in a long time, or something like that. Like where he's been sequestered to a planet where he's been working at the Institute, which I think is mostly true, but they don't say that. Mm-hmm. You get the idea that him coming out to the ship is just like a normal part of his job. And like, he'd see atrocities before now if that were the case.
Yeah.
And instead, we don't get that. I think there could have been a lantern hung that like would have made that make a little more sense.
I mean, there was when he's on the bridge, he doesn't take Stamets 100% at his word, it is enough to like rattle him and make him go like, I'm going to stay on the bridge for a second. And she's like, go back to the thing. And he's like, you have a problem with me being up here? No, I guess not.
Yeah.
It's unpleasant though. Yeah, that's fine. Let me just see what the unpleasantness is, Osira.
Right. It seemed legitimately like Osira cared a little bit to keep him innocent of the things that are going on. Like she really didn't want him to know the monster that she was. Like she really does like being thought of in a positive light by certain people, Yeah. But it's like, if the Federation knows of your civil rights abuses and like then like your top scientist probably also knows,
Yeah. And I feel like I could have used a few more episodes of him.
Yeah.
Of like learning to know about him and like his relationship with Osira and just what the conditions are that she keeps him in to where he wouldn't know. I really think we could have used that.
Yeah. Or at least like give him a different line. 'Cause it seems like his line is he doesn't even understand that Osira kills people for no reason. You know what I mean? Like that seems like completely shocking to him when she kills Ren, which I hated, by the way. I really liked Ren. But I guess his makeup was too expensive.
Come on. They were telegraphing that shit all episode too.
For sure.
I was just like,
sure.
My God.
They definitely prepared us with his last stand saying like, I'm willing to die. You fight for the right things. I'm going to fight for the right things too. I was like, well, he's done. Immediately knew.
Bethany just looked over at me with a sad face. She's like, he's going to die.
And she was correct. So, I think I wish that this episode had been more episodes. I think you're right. I think like if Stamets had been on the ship with this, top scientist for a few more episodes trying to convince him, that could have been interesting. Like the sort of like interplay between them. And it would have been, I think, more interesting if like the doctor, the top scientist guy just like believed in the mission more than anything, like, and Stamets had to convince him that like, no, these things she's doing aren't worth it. It's like you think that like the cost is worth it. Like ends justify the means, but like they don't. And here's why. And I think those conversations between two scientists could have been really interesting and the morality of all of it. And I also wish that this conversation with the Admiral and Osira, I wish I could have done with an entire episode. I could have done with Osira dropping this off with the Admiral, being like, here's my offer, I'll be back in 48 hours. And then we get like a full episode of the Admiral discussing with his people if they can do this or not. You get that, like, I really wanted that decision where he has to make the decision whether he is going to force her to be prosecuted or whether she just needs to be removed from power, or whether they can whether all of this is so worth it that she can stay in power. Like I really wanted that conversation, and we did not have it.
I'm a little perplexed with what Discovery is doing, because I kind of feel like, we are in a situation where they do 13 episodes a season, and they're not restricted to an hour. They could go over if they need to. Like,
sure,
I don't need that. I didn't really need a whole lot more time.
Right. It would have been. I agree with you. Like, I'm just saying I could have put up with that. I really would have liked a whole episode about the discussion of whether Osiris' thing was worth it or not. Instead of one admiral making the call that this is just morally, it's against his own moral code to the point that, like, the Federation is too purist to make a backhanded deal to save lots of millions and millions of lives,
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. I like that kind of stuff. It's funny because I've seen there's been a split about this episode where it's like classic Trek fans are just like, yes, Osira and Lance sitting at or Vance, whatever his name is, sitting at the table, and they're having the conversation. This is what Star Trek is supposed to be. And then, like, the other half of the fan base just going like, oh, it was so boring in the middle when they were just talking.
Yeah.
This is Star Trek's greatest weakness.
That is all I want from Star Trek. I just want lots of that. I thought the conversation is so interesting. I love a good, I love seeing the stakes of all of this in real time with the fighting. But where the decisions are made are in the hearts of men across the table from each other, And I just wanted that. I wanted more of that. And, I did not get it. And I guess they're trying to balance multiple types of fans. And I totally understand that. I just, it wouldn't have to be a whole episode of just this, you know what I mean? It could have been just portions of episodes where they're trying to make this decision. But I would have loved a, Cisco style, discussion of like Devil in the Dark, where is that the name of that episode?
I don't know what you're referring to. Devil in the Dark is from the original series.
Pale Moonlight. My bad.
Okay.
Right. Pale Moonlight. That's the name of that episode where he decides to murder the Romulan, or decides to be complicit in murdering the Romulan. I really, really wanted that. Like, I wanted Vance to have to make that call, and it's okay if he chooses to make the other call. But like, I didn't like that we didn't get to see the internal struggle either among him or among the Federation. Like, that could have been a wonderful episode for Vance. Like, I would have loved this, like basically Pale Moonlight, where he's like talking, doing his own personal log and deciding what he's going to do. But then he makes the, more Federation call. Like, that would have been amazing in my opinion. But I just, I still liked seeing at least we can have this discussion. This episode allowed us to have this discussion. And I think there's just a lot of meat there. Like, there was so much good that could have been done. And she was trustworthy. Like, she was not lying.
Most of the
time. She said one lie, which it is tricky that she still thinks she can have power. But that's the thing. They could have talked about taking her power away and not just prosecuting her. And she might have gone for that. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's some middle roads that were just not explored.
It's true.
And then the rest of the episode was a lot of fun with the laser fights and Stamets getting thrown out the airlock was awful. Just awful. I don't know how their relationship comes back from that. He's begging her, don't throw my life away. This is my whole life. Do not throw it away. And we left.
We came to the future for you.
Yeah.
We followed you. Hugh followed you. We gave up everything so you wouldn't have to be here alone. How can you do this?
And then she's like, how can you tell Adira? And she's like, no, Adira's there too. And he's like, what? My whole life is there. I do not do this. And then she does it. It's just, whew, that's rough. Real rough.
Yeah, that was my favorite scene of the episode, though.
Yeah. And definitely from an emotional aspect, it was an impactful scene for sure. I still lean, if we're talking favorites, I still lean towards the boardroom, but man, oof, that was a rough scene. And this is what kind of annoys me. Instead of us getting a cool decision made by an admiral to solve this thing, like, and I'm scared that's just all over. Like, that whole discussion with Osira is just over now. And I want that to still be on the table. I want there to still be some push and pull.
Yeah, I think it's over.
I think so too. And that's such a bummer. That's the villain of the piece just came to them with a peaceful solution. When she said, I want peace, and Eli believed her, I was like, oh my gosh, this is interesting. This is complex. This is the villain actually trying to make peace, trying to come to terms to make peace.
Yeah, but it's on her terms.
Sure. But not really. She made a lot of concessions. They say it, she made tons of concessions.
She made concessions that she would have to convince other people on. Like, not really concessions for herself.
Well, tons of concessions on the civil rights abuses, tons of concessions on the prime directive breaking, like all the stuff that is the like money making stuff that the Emerald Chain is doing to exploit people. It's all the stuff that the Federation would have a problem with. And I get it. Osira wants to wash her hands and become a benevolent leader, and the Federation can't do that. Like, I get that there's a moral problem there, but man, I loved that whole concept. Was bold and interesting and really, really cool.
I like the idea that she wants to be what this scientist guy sees her as. Yeah. Absolutely. I don't know if that's like real or what, but there was a great mirroring, whereas like the admiral tells her you're going to turn yourself in, you're going to go on trial for your sins, for your crimes, whatever. And she scoffs at that and she leaves. And then she immediately goes over there to Discovery, and the last little lingering bit of her humanity, so quote unquote humanity, she tells what's his face to go ahead and go back, and he's like, no, I'm going to stay on the bridge. She's like, okay, it's unpleasant. When she kills Andorian dude, who's I can't remember his name, Ren. Yep. When she kills him, that is her just being like, okay, if that's how you guys want to see me, that's how it's going to be. Yeah, she's kind of embracing the villainy, which is tough. They had a chance. She like really wanted to make changes. Did she though?
Yes, she did.
Did she though?
She did. She wanted power. She wanted power. She was self-interested. She wanted power. She wanted control. She wanted to continue to be looked at as a leader and as all of those things. Those are all true. Like, being self-interested though is not a reason not to make a deal with someone. Everyone makes deals because they're self-interested, you know? But she was really about to change. And then you get to this idea of forgiveness. You have to balance this idea of moral purity versus the idea of forgiveness. This person has done horrible things, but if forgiving them for those horrible things, and I understand it's fraught because you're forgiving them for other people they have wronged. Like, you can't, it's not an easy thing to do. And I do think some sort of censure, punishment, stripping of power might have been necessary, but going all the way to prosecuting her for her war crimes is tough when you have so much else on the table that could lead to so much betterment for so many lives across the galaxy. Possibly. That's a very morally purist position that, like, I get it. That's what the Federation's all about, but it's a different universe right now. And the Emerald Chain seems like it's more powerful than the Federation. But there's also a consideration to take in regards to, she might be telling the truth, but she also might be lying to herself. She believes everything she's saying, but a person who has gone down the path Osira has and has committed all of the atrocities Osira has, they're not going to just change overnight. They're not. They might say they have plans to change. And so, like, all of a sudden you're going to turn around and the Federation is going to be sanctioning
her crimes. She has to go down. She has to be put on trial for this to happen.
I agree she can't go on being in power.
She'll find a way to get back in power. Like, that's the problem. She needs to be in a prison somewhere.
That's possible. And I do think some safeguards need to be put in place. And I think that she can't be the leader of the Emerald Chain. To me, that's the crux of this. To me, there's like a Nixon problem here, right? So like Nixon, to prosecute Nixon would, they at least the traditional logic is, they pardoned him after he resigned because to prosecute him would have been too hard for the country, too destabilizing, all of that. So it's like I see sort of a Nixon problem here, where like Nixon did horrible crimes, not as horrible as Osira. They are real crimes in the real world, so whatever. So I don't want to say his crimes were not legitimate or anything, but like so Osira's done horrible things. Maybe there's room for clemency on the other side of this deal, if that makes sense. If she'll step down from power, maybe there's room for clemency because she maybe brought the universe to a safer. It's just a balance of good and evil, man. Like, people are complicated and people do horrible things, but sometimes they're willing to come around and do a good thing that, if it's worth that, then maybe you offer clemency. I'm not saying it's the right decision, but I'm saying it's like one that should have been discussed, I guess. And anyway, I know there's lots of other little things that happen in this episode. I just keep going back to that because I thought it was the best and most interesting conversation that we can have, because they didn't.
And they didn't necessarily have to have the conversation, because you could see when she storms out of there, the Admiral is questioning himself, like, shit, did I just screw this up? Right.
Well, he says, if it's throwing this chance at peace away, I'm willing to do it because this is who I am. I would have liked to have seen. I would have liked to know more about him during this. Like, he talks about the moral ambiguity of the state of the universe, and I watched that and I'm like, I would like to see him making some of those morally ambiguous choices. They mentioned some of them, like the fact that Deep Space 256 or whatever it was is working with the Emerald Chain, and that she asked that the Federation has to acknowledge that capitalism is functioning right now for them, because they can't. Their reach is not what it once was, and they need capitalism out on the fringes to supply people.
I thought that was really cool and interesting.
I did too.
Liked that. He didn't seem like he knew.
Though. Oh, I think he knew.
It did not seem to me that he knew. It seemed like he was like, "Oh, really? Shit."
Oh, I thought it seemed like he knew. It was just something that was embarrassing to him and embarrassing to the Federation.
Oh, maybe.
Also,
maybe.
Who is the president of the Federation? We haven't even met them, right?
I don't know, but Stu Little messaged me and said he hopes it's Guinan.
That's really funny. Man, I really hope Guinan and Q come back for Picard, man. I want them both.
Well, I know Guinan, like, Picard.
That's right. Patrick Stewart invited her for season 2.
Yeah, went on the View and officially invited her to come back, and she accepted.
And we know from our story we broke 2 weeks ago, thanks to Jason, that it looks like Q's coming back. So yeah,
Jason Smith, our buddy.
Yeah, thanks for sending that in. What other things interested you in this episode?
I mean, I've heard it derided quite harshly, but man, I loved all the Die Hard stuff.
Right. We got some feedback about that, right?
We did. I believe it was from Stu Little, who I just mentioned.
Yeah.
Sent us an email, said, yeah, so pretty good episode, even if I thought the Die Hard aspect with Burnham was a little much, especially when she went barefoot like John McClane. Nope, loved it. Loved it. It's Christmas time.
Yeah.
Die Hard.
This is fully a Die Hard moment. I just wish that when she'd sent that Emerald Chain member out of the airlock, it had like a ho 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 motherfucker on the, like, written on his chest. I don't remember exactly what John McClane writes, but it's something like that.
Now I have a machine gun. Ho ho ho.
That's it. Now I have a machine gun. Now I would have loved it. Now I have a blaster. Ho ho ho.
Stu says, also, what's with the children of Sarek getting exposed to massive levels of radiation and having to engage on a sacrificial mission, while also at one point using a Vulcan nerve pinch on another member of the crew? Spock's used that Vulcan nerve pinch a few times on various members of the crew throughout the series, TOS and the movies.
Is he talking
radiation?
Yeah, I think he's talking about
he's talking about Wrath of Khan.
Wrath of Khan, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but radiation is a stalwart and a proponent of future tech.
It's true. I don't think those two elements in themselves draw too strong of a comparison. But
I didn't think about it.
I didn't either. And that's what I was going to say about the Die Hard feedback. I mistakenly read that. I try to avoid reading our feedback until I see the episode for obvious reasons. But I happened to see Stu's feedback. So then I just couldn't unsee the Die Hard comparison. And it was very funny. I think good job, Stu. Very apt. And when she is running barefoot and blood's dripping down her leg, I was like, where's the glass? When's she going to have to walk over glass?
She's like, oh, the transparent aluminum.
Little shards of transparent aluminum. I'm gonna have to tie a what's the Star Trek version of a fire hose? I'm gonna have to tie a fire suppression system hose to my suit to myself and jump out an airlock.
Yeah, wow.
Sorry, I just like Die Hard a lot.
Yeah, I enjoy it. Stu says, my favorite thing about the episode was the Vance of Cyber negotiations, because it's been a while since Star Trek covered how actual diplomacy involves no easy solutions and requires compromises. The fact Osira wanted a piece of some sort was a nice surprise on his face. The deal she was offering seemed like the best, most reasonable thing the Federation could get, considering the circumstances, as the alternative was doing nothing or committing to a risky/costly conflict.
Yeah. I 100% agree.
And even with that, Vance still showed his moral considerations by asking for Osira to submit to being put on trial. It was nice to see that after a season of some fans thinking he's an unreasonable hard ass and a possible twist villain. I could have done without the reveal that food replicators use not just any matter, but feces in the recycling. I loved that. And I don't necessarily believe that that's true. It was totally like a power play. That was totally him just being like, by the way, you're eating our shit.
I did not think that was him lying. I think he meant it. But yeah, that was a weird moment. It was a weird moment, and it kind of puts all Star Trek replicated food into question. Which whatever, it's fine.
Well, I mean, these are hard times, so maybe not.
Yeah, but, maybe not always that way.
I've seen a lot of headlines saying they just said where the replicators are making our food from. I'm like, oh, they didn't.
They said
necessarily
at this particular time that's what's happening.
But just the way he said it's made of our shit. That's the base material we use for using our replicators. We deconstruct it to the atomic level and then reform the atoms. It's pretty good for shit, and we don't have to commit atrocities for it.
Yeah, great line.
Totally a power play, as far as I'm concerned, whether it's true or not.
Sure, I guess that's true. I thought it was a great line, and we don't have to commit atrocities to get it. You've never had a real apple? Yeah, all of that. I loved it.
Mm-hmm. No, it was great. Stu says, also, anyone else find it super weird that Stamets now considers Adira to be his offspring? Come on now. They need to go through a whole lot more together before that's even a possible take on their relationship. Though I've also seen people who think that's what Prime Georgiou and Michael had, which is even more weird, given that Amanda was still alive at the time. Take care and Happy New Year. Then he says, P.S. My paragraph on the Vance Osira dealings was copied from a comment I made on a YouTube video about the episode, and someone replied to it by saying they figured I must be a commie. Or a communist. Huh?
Because you thought it was fair that she be prosecuted? I don't understand.
I don't either.
So this person is on Team Emerald Chain?
Naturally.
No, I get that, like, Emerald Chain is talking about capitalism and all, but like, defending the Emerald Chain is not really somewhere you want to go, buddy.
Yeah, it's like I stand with Space Amazon or whatever they are.
Well, they're worse than that. They're like space slave trade, right? Mm-hmm. Like, that's the whole deal here. Yeah, it's not that they're just capitalists. It's that they're committing
Space Walmart.
You're not too far off. You're not too far off.
I know.
Oh goodness! Wow. Yeah, that's impressive. That's some impressive capitalist bullshit right there. Like,
yes, sir.
I believe in some level of capitalism, it can be healthy for an economic system, or is healthy for an economic system. But being like so up your own ass that like you're willing to go Emerald Chain is pretty dark, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, I like how like just someone saying, because Stu didn't really say like anything definitive. He was just talking about like how it was an interesting conversation and there are no easy solutions and it requires compromises, etc.
Yeah, exactly. This guy just jumped to the side of Emerald Chain.
Yeah. They're just, you see them on Facebook all the time, just like the last remaining few who haven't, traipsed off to Parlor.
Oh gosh, let's make some make the Emerald Chain great again hats.
Oh God. Yeah, I don't get it. I don't know how anything in there just nothing in there made me go like, oh, that Stu must be a damn commie.
That's really, really crazy.
He'd like to see the Star Trek with diplomacy. Damn communist.
Yeah, I don't even know, man. I can't even understand. Okay.
Like the John Birch Society over here, like peeking under friggin' beds and shit, looking for the Reds. Like,
yeah.
Oh my gosh,
not far off. Okay. Any other feedback?
Yeah.
Keep it coming. Keep it rolling.
Jay Smith from Twitter says, Sukal wasn't a bad episode. If you remove that horrible reveal of what caused the burn, it is pretty good. That reveal, though, really disappointing. Kind of like how Picard was really good up until the end.
Yeah, I hear that.
I think there still might be room for an explanation. They still have to go back to that planet and grab Saru and Adira. I would be buying into your theory that they just need to get rid of people with all the makeup. Mm-hmm. And think that Saru was doomed, except for the fact that Adira is there. I don't think they're going to leave them.
I don't think Saru's going to die there. I think it's possible that Saru will return to his home planet.
Yeah.
After all of this, especially after he makes some decisions that clearly cost them by putting Vance. Osira tells Vance this. Osira's like, your captain was on the planet, and then Vance gets a look on his face like, oh, my captain was on the planet because he wanted to see if there was another Kelpian there, or he believed there was another Kelpian there, so he went down to the planet.
Osira asked Vance if because she was confused as to why Tilly was there, because she said she found an ensign in charge, and then said, is Saru on Kaminar?
Oh,
because
that's right.
They had that whole
that's right.
Whole Kaminar situation.
But I think that Vance realized what happened in that moment, that Saru decided to send himself down to the planet against Federation regulations.
Yeah.
So he left his post and left an ensign in charge of the ship just because of his personal feelings about the mission. And that's a bad decision. And I think that Saru is going to realize that he misses his home world. He needs to be with his people, and he's not being the best captain because of it.
Yeah, Saru's making a number of poor choices. That said, Tilly's kicking ass.
I think Tilly's kicking ass, but it is hard to it's hard to say she's doing a great job when the ship was taken 10 minutes after her. She's great. I'm rooting for her. I want her to do well. She's got some plans. But she is an ensign who took over the bridge of a ship and immediately lost the ship.
Well, I mean, she lasted longer than Deanna Troi did before she crashed the damn thing every time she took control.
Yeah, this show has a little bit of a spotted history when it comes to how it treats women in command, subordinates taking over the command. Yeah. I don't think she made any decisions that she, again, I don't think Tilly did a bad job. I just think it is Osira has a point, is all I'm saying.
Well, I do like the fact that they made it a point to have it. Tilly lost it to another female. That's a good thing.
Oh, for sure. I'm not saying the show is being sexist.
Right.
I'm making the Deanna Troi comparison.
Well, I never thought of Deanna Troi's constant losing of the ship. Every time the ship blows up, it's because she's at the. I never thought about it being because she's a woman. I just thought, wow, she's incompetent.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. I just thought it was I only made the comparison because it was there between the two characters that we're talking about here.
Right. But the thing about Tilly though is that she didn't. It's not like. She stood up to Osira. She did a really good job. She was really strong in the face of adversity. There was no way they could have known that they were just going to like appear on that ship, man. Like Kirk wouldn't have been able to do anything like that.
Right.
Like,
no, this is one of those things where it's like the mettle of the captain is tested. And the mettle of the first officer is tested in some big way. And that's what's going on here. And so I'm cool with that. And I think that Tilly is rallying the troops down in the belly of the ship. And I think it's really going to be cool. I don't think though, if Saru does decide to leave, I don't think Tilly becomes captain.
Oh no.
I also don't think Burnham is going to, I don't think Burnham, I don't think she's ready. I think that she's still, even though she wants to be here and wants to fight for the Federation, like, I just don't know.
Who do you think it'll be? Who do you think it'll be then?
I think it could be a future person. I think they could go with a new captain, just like they've done every season so far. I think Vance could take the lead. I think
that would be really cool if he just ran the flagship, dude.
Yeah, they become the flagship because of their spore drive, and Vance steps out. And maybe they go to war with the Emerald Chain, and Vance has to become like a wartime general. I don't know. Yeah, this is what concerns me, and about the way they handled the diplomacy this episode that moved towards this sort of diehard nature of the show is that I like when characters make decisions, and that's why the plot has moved forward. And I kind of feel like instead we are going to get the thing that wins the day is just going to be really good tactical maneuvering under the ship, which is fun to watch, but it doesn't feel like Star Trek to me. It doesn't feel like some big decision is being made. It's like they're just going to outfox and outgun them, and they're going to take down Osira, and then they're going to pop over to. They're going to get Stamets back. They're going to pop over to the Nebula, pick up their crew members, save their crew members. Probably, and then it's over. You know what I mean? It's just like it's the same reason I find a lot of cop dramas boring is because they and superhero stuff boring is because they set up these like complicated characters, and they'll be like, this character's complicated, and instead of having any of them make a decision, the end is just who kung fu's better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this feels like that on a 3-episode arc instead of, you know what I mean? Like, it feels like there's this really interesting thing dropped on the table in the middle of this episode. It's like second act, the reveal of this 3-episode arc is that Osira wants peace. And instead of dealing with that in a way that like allows for peace to come, it looks like they're going to just say, screw your interesting deal. We're going to fight better than you. And then, and I'm like, and maybe they take Osira down, and then they offer the deal to the next person in her orbit, or whoever's going to take over the command of the Emerald Chain. I don't know.
Yeah, my hope is they take down Osira and then someone more, I don't know, suitable. My thought is that's exactly what they're going to do, and it's going to be that scientist. Like Osira leaves everything to him.
It could be maybe that's an interesting thought, that maybe she's kept him clean of all this stuff in part because she believes he's her better, and that he hasn't been so morally compromised by this era, and that he can go on to lead the Emerald Chain. But and here's what I think that sets up. I think that sets up a season of unrest in the Emerald Chain, because the Emerald Chain has always been about who is strongest and who elicits the most fear. So if the Emerald Chain were to join the Federation, Osira's gone. She leaves it to Scientist Dude or someone like that. And then I'm sure there are lots of little smaller warlords that would not put up with that, and that would immediately try to take down the leadership of the Emerald Chain, which in turn would be attack on the Federation. And so you're going to have a Federation that's constantly putting down rebellion among the Emerald Chain.
That sounds like they need a season 4. Oh wait.
Yeah. No. I think that all sounds great. I really do. I think all this is super interesting. And I think that the Emerald Chain becoming a part of the Federation would be a super interesting way to end the season. And the Spore Drive being more readily available, them expanding back the Federation and sort of like starting to take back the universe, like that sounds super great, and having to deal with all the problems that come from it. And I think the Emerald Chain has been an awesome foil this season. And making peace with them and moving forward with them with this sort of uneasy peace would be awesome. Would be fascinating. How does the Federation deal with all these planets where they have such interests, and there's all these people that are profiting off the misery of others, and but it's now under the Federation's control, and they're having to restructure society in a way. I just think that's fascinating.
Yeah,
fascinating.
I think it's pretty interesting. It's a really good jumping off point for another season. I like Vance, man. I wouldn't mind him being the captain.
I would not either.
I like this episode. Like, even though it did like jump the gun on a couple of things for me, I really like the episode as a whole. I was a little worried that it was just going to be like Michael Burnham running around and like saving the entire ship or whatever.
But it was not that.
It was not that. Tilly starts giving, like, we've got the crew members giving each other Morse code. We've got, Tilly giving instructions and them doing different things. It was Ren and Book, fighting. And man, all of that was really good. And it was a really like nice, ensemble effort in a lot of ways, while you have Vance doing the Picard thing and having a good diplomatic conversation with Osira. I liked all of it. I really would like to see what happens if the Federation becomes part of the Emerald Chain.
Yeah.
I'm so curious about Calypso, man. I'm so curious about it. Like, cause Zara referred to it as the Vidreish already. I'm curious if becoming part of the Emerald Chain corrupts them further, and that leads us to Calypso. God, I'm so...
Well, and that's the thing is we know about that character from Calypso, and he seemed like a pretty good guy. He also seemed mostly humanoid. Was he human? Yeah. Do we know if he's human?
I thought he was.
I don't know if we know for sure, but yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I don't know for sure.
Yeah, so I'm very, very interested to see what goes on from here. I really am.
They really don't seem to be shying away from it. They're playing with the old movies. They're playing with the sphere data intelligence.
That is true. And it seems like the sphere data intelligence is just going to become a normal part of the crew from here on out. They've begun communicating with it. They have so many interesting things this season. I'm very impressed with Discovery this season. The Emerald Chain's been great. I the Federation itself is just this new thing to explore because they're so different. And then the sphere data becoming more and more conscious and communicating with the crew has been really fascinating. And like, it's up till now, it hasn't really been in their face, but now it's like literally inside these robots that they're going to be dealing with and running around the ship. And I'm just 100% here for that.
Yeah.
I don't think you go back from it being an active participant in a mission to it just being like a sort of vague idea on the ship. I think it's going to be a consciousness they're going to have to deal with from there on out.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we've been seeing it kind of pop up from, here and there, doing movie night, suggesting movie night to Saru. And the reason it was in the .23s is because it was hiding from Osira. I love that.
Me too.
I love that the sphere data is, aka the smart ball, is so is so intelligent that it was just like, no, we're gonna go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed it. There were a couple of little, but it's not a big deal. I think overall, if I had a one big gripe with Discovery, or one, not even a gripe, it's just a thing I hope changes. I do think they rely too heavily on Burnham to save the day. I would like to see a lot more from the rest of the crew. Like, really just keep showing me that they're a Starfleet crew and that they actually know how to do their damn job. And they're not all just like waiting for Burnham to save them, which they did a great job of in this episode.
Yeah.
But really, that's about it. Like, I don't mind the crying, as people complain about, or whatever. Like, I like emotional scenes. I think if I was in space and was, put through the ringer like this, I'd probably be weepy too. Hell, I get weepy watching a TV show. So, and I it's just the way a lot of people are complaining, like to complain about how, like, there's no, I don't know, time to just like get to know the characters and everything. I'm like, no, this is a different this is a new day. This TV shows don't work that way so much anymore. They do season-long arcs. It's 13 episodes. It's not 26 episodes where half of the episode is watching, Data and O'Brien, play a concert in 10 forward. Like,
yeah.
Oh, that's the other thing. That's the other big thing with Discovery that I'd really like to see change is, like, can we not do the mystery box like every season?
Yeah, I think this season was hurt by the mystery box, honestly.
Yeah.
And it was mostly last episode. Maybe they'll find something interesting next episode about this nebula and everything, but like the mystery box really damaged the season because it made us feel like that was the main purpose. I mean, that's literally Ben Burnham's, our main character's purpose this whole season. And yeah, it just isn't really what we needed from her. I don't know.
Mystery box is almost never fulfilling.
I agree. I do think there's a difference between mystery box and just a mystery. I think that having some mystery is okay.
Yeah. Like, man, I think the one instance I can just like, where it just totally clicked, everything about it, was Flash season 2.
And
I think it was about halfway through the season.
I don't remember what Flash season 2 was about.
In Flash season 2, we are introduced to Earth 2 by way of Jay Garrick.
Right.
And he's a young man, and they, about mid-season, they go over to Earth 2, and the big bad guy has a base there, and he's got a dude in an iron mask inside of a cage. And the mystery is, who is the man in the iron mask? Like, who the hell is he? And like, by the end of the season, spoilers for Flash season 2, by the end of the season, it is revealed that the man that they thought was Jay Garrick, that we've all been getting to know and liking, is in fact the villain of the piece. And the real Jay Garrick is the man in the iron mask, as played by John Wesley Shipp. who is Barry's dad on The Flash, and also opening up the doppelganger scenario in the multiverse, which pushed forward and led the way to them having the classic John Wesley ship Flash come in for Crisis and Elseworlds.
No, yeah, I think that's just a mystery, right? Like,
it's just a mystery, but it was a big, like, who is this guy? What is this? And it was just they've tried to do it since and it hasn't really worked. And most of the time it just doesn't work for me. But,
right. I think that's pretty common. I think that what doesn't work, and I think it's the thing that like the J.J. Abrams people try to do, is when you set up a mystery that doesn't have a payoff. Mm-hmm. And your show is about having mysteries, but you don't really have a plan to pay those off. Yeah. That's what doesn't work. And in this season, it's not that they didn't exactly it kind of at this point is meaningless, right? Like the whole burn is a thing that happened, and I know Burnham got really fascinated with it and wanted to solve the burn. And I'm like, what's the point? Especially now that you have spore drive technology. If you can copy that, who needs dilithium? Why risk another burn? Like, even if you solve what caused the burn, a burn is possible. So, it just seems like they're going to use spore drive technology, which is more efficient anyway.
Right. It's not a praxis situation. It's not overmining. There's not an ecological message really behind it. It's just, hey, this guy was here and he, in utero, like developed some sort of weird psychic connection with dilithium and blew it up.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it's anything unless they come out and say like, no, the burn is this.
Yeah.
And it's some other big thing, which this is preferable to Michael being the burn.
It is. It is preferable to that, I guess.
Maybe.
It is. If he did that right, I'd probably like that better. Even though I say I wouldn't. But I really just, and do we have, is that melody? Is the melody that we heard? Is that one of the melodies we heard them singing last episode?
Well, yeah, was that the lullaby from Sukal? I don't know. I need to go and check that out.
I didn't hear it. I meant to talk about that last episode, but we didn't. I don't believe. I didn't.
No, we did. We did. You said, is that the melody? And I said, I don't think so. I don't know.
Yeah, it didn't. I guess I haven't heard that melody enough times for it to stick.
So it didn't stick for me. So, I mean, if I meant to look it up. If I looked it up and they said it was, I'd believe them. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know, man.
I mean, it's a, not a huge sticking point. I would have liked for it to have been more interesting. And, it still has, it still has potential to be.
Sure.
There's still a chance.
So you're saying there's a chance.
1 in a million.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
Me too. Dumb and Dumber. Great.
So good. So good. I don't know.
I don't know either. Okay. So we'll see. Maybe next episode we'll get that real strong connection between that and the melody, and maybe that'll pay off in some really cool way. And even just like telling us kind of figuring out what caused the burn 3 episodes before the end feels like a weird misdirect when the entire season, our main character, that's all she's cared about. And now we know it didn't seem to be impactful. Mm-hmm. It feels like weird decisions are being made.
It does.
Doesn't necessarily feel that bad. It just feels weird. Like, I don't understand why they made the decision to make that such a big deal and then pay it off early and then not have it have any impact. But again, maybe it will. I keep thinking, because of the Kelpian connection and this young boy who needs a father figure, possibly, I keep thinking that's going to connect to Saru's story in a strong way. And that Saru,
like he's going to take him back to
Kaminar, and like live and be his father figure or something, and teach him how to maybe even harness. Maybe he has some power still because of his connections, and maybe he will take like I could see them saying like this boy, because of his powers, like he has power over dilithium because of this in utero radiation connection, and he is the cause of the burn, and we may have to put him down. Basically, like I could see that sort of a conversation. Like he's too powerful. Even if we take him away from this planet, he's too powerful. And maybe Saru going like, "No, I take responsibility for this boy. I will guide him and teach him to control his emotions, to control, to be the like whatever, to be who he needs to be. Something like that. I could totally see. And then him going back to Kaminar with the boy.
Mm-hmm. We know season 4 is already in production,
right? I'm
actually wondering if they found out they were getting a season 4 and they like changed the ending of this season to cram in a little more. Like, because I feel like we've got one more episode. I can't imagine it not feeling rushed. And I guess I'll see when it comes out.
I don't feel that way. I feel like they've really set the board for some interesting stuff with Osira.
Yeah.
And then going and rescuing Saru and Hugh and Adira feels just like a little thing they could do at the end almost.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel, and they've already almost taken the ship. They've gotten like a ton of the ship taken, and now they have the sphere data helping them. Like it feels very poised for a final battle that our heroes will clearly win at some cost to them. And that will be the end of the season. Who's dying? Who's dying next episode?
Not Reno.
Who's Reno?
Tignataro.
Ooh.
She says she's coming back for season 4.
Here's a bet.
What's that?
Scientist guy dies.
Oh.
Osira feels real regret and pain over his death and decides to be prosecuted.
Interesting.
That's not going to happen, but it's a way they could go to like show her humanity through this connection she has with this one other person that like the loss of him like actually hurts her in a way that nothing's been able to get through. I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe.
Just an idea. Throwing it out there.
I hope at the very least we get to see Zara die before they take Osira down.
Who is Zara? Sorry.
The guy with the hand, the guy with the frostbite hand.
Zara's dead for sure. Zara's gone this episode, right? That's a good call. I meant who on the crew, but yeah, Zara's dead for sure. At Tilly's hand, right? Tilly will kill Zara.
Oh, I certainly hope so.
In a real like Kirk style fight on a bridge moment, you know. I hope she's gonna kill him on a bridge. I call it. She's killing him on a bridge.
This dude had feelings of Wrath of Khan with the radiation and Sarek's child, but I totally had I missed all that. What I got was Star Trek 3 Search for Spock when Michael's in the tube holding onto the strap and is sucking that woman out into space.
Oh, yeah.
And then she just starts kicking her in the face. Like, who didn't hear Kirk going, "I have had enough of you"?
Yeah, man. That was pretty badass, that moment. Although I can't imagine that's how it empties the oxygen from a room. That doesn't make any sense. That is not how a fire suppression system would work, especially if life signs are in the tube.
Yeah, I don't know.
We've got sprinklers now. You don't need the vacuum of space to be your fire suppression system.
Yeah, that was all real weird.
Yep, dumb thing of the episode.
But it was fun to see, so I didn't care.
Oh yeah, it added to the whole Die Hard of it all.
I was like, Michael hacked the system.
Guess that's about all I got to say. Any other feedback?
I don't have any more feedback, but I will say that this episode of Discovery was the 800th entry in Star Trek canon.
Wow. 800.
Yeah. Now, That's 79 episodes of the original series, 22 of the animated series, 6 films for the original series, 178 episodes of The Next Generation, 4 Next Generation films, 176 episodes of DS9, 172 of Voyager, 98 of Enterprise, 3 Kelvin movies, 41 Discovery episodes, 10 episodes of Short Treks, 10 episodes of Picard, and 10 episodes of Lower Decks. That adds up to 809. But if you subtract the 10 for the various, 2-part stories, and then add one for the cage, you end up with 800. Like, it took some finagling, but they are like heavily pimping this as the 800th entry in canon.
This one or next one?
No, this one.
This one. Okay, cool. Sorry, I thought that's what you were saying. It's funny. We do the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast, and for a while, Star Trek wasn't really on the air at all. And I kept being like, I feel like, I don't know if I'm right about this. Is Star Trek the most prolific universe, like contiguous universe?
Probably.
I think it is. I don't think there's anything that even rivals it.
I mean, if you're talking about TV shows,
I think Gunsmoke or something has a ton of episodes.
Gunsmoke, they surpassed Gunsmoke a long time ago.
Right.
But and this is like 37 seasons or so. Like, this is...
Right. Sorry. 635. Okay. And then Simpsons is another one that has like a lot. I remember that. Simpsons has 639. Wow. Is that the same? Did I just say the same number twice?
Yes.
Gunsmoke.
I think so.
What? No way. Did I just happen to look this up on the day that, or on the exact time when Gunsmoke and The Simpsons has the same? Oh, it's Simpsons just passed Gunsmoke. Gunsmoke is at 635, and Simpsons at 639.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Anyway, so they're at 800 with Star Trek. I kept thinking over the years, the 6 years we've been doing the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast, I kept thinking, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, all these shows they're putting out, they're going to pass Star Trek. Like not even, it won't even take that long. Cause they had for a while they were doing 13 episodes of 5 series every year. And then all the movies. And I was like, man, this is good. They're going to pass. And that's just talking about the Defenders. You also had Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Cloak and Dagger, all these shows happening. And I was like, man, they're making so many pieces of content every year. It's not going to take long before they overpass Star Trek. And then Star Trek ramped up production, and then Marvel has now cut down to basically they're going to do 1 episode a week this year, it looks like, or pretty close to it. Between movies and episodes, it's going to be about 1 a week in the MCU. And I was like, okay, Star Trek has normalized relations in that Cold War to see who had the most.
I was going to say, they just hit 800, so we'll see you next year when they hit 1,000.
Right.
Because of Strange New Worlds, Section 31... freaking Prodigy.
I bet they're going for the same thing that Marvel has now, which is about once a week you drop a piece of content. And then people have certain things they like better than others, but then they do crossovers that kind of make it all worth watching. Like the DC Berlantiverse is super rad, but there's no way I can keep up with 5 episodes a week. If they were spread out where they were running at different times, I would probably still be watching all those shows.
I wish.
Yeah. And so that's what Marvel's doing now. And it looks like Star Trek's setting up to be that way in the next couple of years, where it'll have Picard, then Lower Decks, then Discovery, then Strange New Worlds. And it'll just be on this loop where, we have about 52 episodes a year.
Yeah. This big 23 weeks of Star Trek has been their first big, cock thrust.
When you made that big pause, I hit the marker button because I always try to make, whenever you have a big pause, I'm like, oh, he's thinking of a word. I'll put a pause here so people don't know he took a moment to think of a word. But that deserves the full pause for cock thrust. So thank you for that. There's no way to edit that down. That is fully needed, that gears churning and then ending on cock thrust. Thank you.
Yeah. I wasn't going to say anything like that. And then it just came, and as cock thrusts do.
Yep, I was going to say, all right, let's, I feel like we're just getting in trouble at this point.
May I say, if you look at that, the galactic armistice that Osira had, it features the longest stardate to date in franchise history.
The longest stardate.
Yes.
Do stardates get longer? Is that a thing? Okay.
Yes. This was stardate 29141429.1.
Okay. I guess I don't understand stardates at all. I've never tried to look into that.
Yeah. It's not worth it. But it's fun to see that. I thought it was fun anyway.
I think it's weird they get longer. Right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't they just get higher numbers? But
well, I mean, they went 1,000 years in the future, so
yeah, it just seems like it's short-sighted to have your calendar not get higher.
Here's the thing about stardates, though: when you try to like sync it up, original series,
yeah, no, they didn't always work.
It doesn't make any sense. Like,
yeah,
Roddenberry just kind of threw numbers out there.
Right, and then at some point they normalized what they mean, and they did it. But yeah, this not always that way. Okay, well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. We are the Star Trek Universe Podcast. You can find us at StarTrekUcast.com or StrandedPanda.com. All the places to connect with us, and pretty excited to hear from you all. Get in your feedback about the finale next week as soon as it runs, if you can, and we'll do a big feedback roundup, see what you guys are thinking about.
Yes, sir. Strap on the feedback.
You know what those apples are made out of.
Do I ever?
Jolan True.
Live long and cock thrust.
Oh, no. Thank you for listening to the Star Trek Universe Podcast, a Stranded Panda production. If you'd like to hear more from David C. Robertson, check out the DC On Screen podcast or maladjusted.tv for his web videos. If you'd like to hear more from Matthew Carroll, check out the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast or listen to his music. Just search for Matthew Carroll anywhere you get music.